Well, welcome to the Dare to Be Great, Dare to Be You podcast. My name is Sean Langwell, and I am your host. And as usual, we got some great guests on this show. And this guest in particular, I met at a Chamber of Commerce meeting up here in Petaluma by the name of Melanie Larson. Just say a quick hello, and then I'll do a proper intro for you, Melanie.
Hi there. Thanks so much for having me on your program today. I'm really looking forward to it.
This is going to be fun. The whole purpose of this show really is if you like honest, vulnerable, and real stories about what it takes to not only become great, but self-confident and bold enough to be yourself, then this show is for you. Each of my guests started out as ordinary people like you and me and have accomplished extraordinary things in their lives to be considered great masters or experts at what they have been called to do. Join me each episode for inspiring, encouraging, and meaningful conversations with diverse people from all walks of life and industry. Leaders and brave individuals who offer unique insights into the fields of arts, entertainment, business, finance, technology, healthcare, sports, psychology, recovery, self improvement, personal growth, and so much more. Whether you are in the same fields as my guests or not, I guarantee you will walk away from each episode feeling better about yourself and inspired to take the next bold step forward toward your own goals and aspirations. Your life will improve if you dare to be great and dare to be you. And Melanie is she's got some experience, and we're going to be talking about some health and mindset and food and body issues, which is right in my wheelhouse and in all the arenas. But let's give her a proper introduction, and then I'm just going to lead you into this. Okay, Melanie?
Okay.
Melanie is a behavioral nutritionist who integrates clinical knowledge with behavioral psychology and education to help individuals create lasting, meaningful change. I think you belong on this show, my dear. Her approach goes beyond food choices. She helps clients uncover the emotional, cognitive, and environmental influences shaping their habits. By combining evidence-based nutrition guidance with insights into behavior, emotion, and memory, Mel empowers people to transform their relationship with food and their well-being. She specializes in guiding individuals who have struggled with traditional diet culture or inconsistent habits to build a sustainable foundation for health and happiness. Through personalized strategies and compassionate support, Mel helps clients implement realistic changes that improve energy, balance, and confidence in everyday life. Her mission is simple: to help people nourish their bodies, rewire unhelpful patterns, and thrive, not through restriction, but through awareness, connection, and empowered choice. And those last three words are what I'm all about in a different arena. But let's have you just share a little bit about what got you into this field because you've been doing it for 25 years. So what was the impetus for this, Melanie?
Well, it's a story in itself, but I, it started as a project my senior year in high school. I had this amazing, back then it was called home economics, and these days, it's called life skills. But um, I was really drawn to nutrition. I grew up in a family that owned restaurants, and they were fast food restaurants. And then on the other hand, though, my extended family had a huge garden. It's like probably an acre or so that we managed year round. So food was just like part of my upbringing. And this particular teacher that I had said, "Listen, I want you to do this project." And I did this amazing nutrition project my senior year and took it to a competition, and I won some kind of award, I don't know. But so I literally my first day of college, I think I'd signed up for just general ed, University of Georgia, and I hadn't decided what field I wanted to go into, but I found the nutrition department and I went
Hmm.
in, and I qualified for some scholarship, and then
Wow.
next thing you know, I'm in the nutrition field, and this was so long ago that there was only like one class of 30 kids that I graduated with from this particular entity in the college. So that's how I got started, and then life um, led me to California, and that's where my real story began.
Well, let's just pause there for. I appreciate the backstory, and then we're gonna on this show, and you're free to share whatever you choose to or not to. But I have a tendency sometimes to dig a little deeper, so I'll just put
Mhm.
that disclaimer out there. So that's great from a high school standpoint, moving into this field. Were there other life situations that happen with you that you're comfortable sharing that have helped influence your work and transformative work with women, in particular women who are going through menopause, which is what you had talked about because you're a specialist in that arena. But th this whole diet culture is, quite frankly, I'm a guy and I can't really speak to it. I have a super high metabolism, but the marketing and the mindset and the shame that goes around diet culture is, quite frankly, it's disgusting. And so how do you navigate some of that? And was there personal stuff you draw upon when you're working with clients that you're willing to share here so we can put it out there to the world?
Sure. When I finished up my internship to become a dietitian, I was a bit disappointed in the experience that I'd had because it was so, um, integrated into the hospital setting, and I felt like everybody that I was working with was just sick and not even at a place where they could imagine making any kind of behavior change. So I was a little bit disillusioned with, the whole profession itself and decided to go on to get my master's degree in exercise science because I loved physical activity. At the time, I was mountain biking and participating in triathlons. And I thought, wow, I'm going to really try to um collaborate lifestyle in general with nutrition and see where this goes. And what I witnessed as an athlete was I think it was the impact of the diet culture on these athletes trying to perform and overtraining coupled with
Mhm.
under eating. And so I saw this disordered eating and eating disordered world that was fascinating to me.
Okay. Was it what sport or what athletics in particular? Is there a
I
speed?
was a mountain biker and a triathlete.
Okay,
So some high volume training, and, it was also my sense of community.
sure. And that's the challenge because you bring up community and it's also part of the cultural norms of what you do when you're within certain groups of people and then the expectation. I mean, I think of models, for example, which isn't athletics per se, but maybe a dancer or a ballerina and gymnasts. There's been plenty of stories out there of some of the tough training regimens gymnasts have to go through.
Mhm.
But there's also eating disorders and or other mental, physical, emotional disorders that coincide with that to feel part of the community and feel like you're belonging. So you're the expert on this. Let's hear you talk about that a little bit because I don't know who this show's going to reach, but I can guarantee there's at least a handful of women out there in particular that are going to get some value out of our conversation here today.
So, yes, I totally agree with you in terms of the mental health care aspect of it is what has really prompted me to move in this new direction. And, I think that we all struggle with past behaviors and memories and emotions and whatever people wanna label it as triggers, trauma,
Mhm.
um, and food is this, um it's this sort of socially acceptable, easily accessible, um, thing in our society that people bond over and also use as a mechanism for control.
Sure.
And so it's interesting because, um, most disordered eating typically tends to coincide with some other, feeling of lack
Mhm.
or not enough, and, it can either be used to numb out those feelings or to reinforce those feelings. And so it's very it's interesting to step back and look at all the different walks of life that people come from, but we all still tend to gather around the table, and those behaviors show up either in ways that serve us or don't.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I know I put the caveat on there, I'm a guy, but this is not related. I know you work primarily. Do you work solely with women or just primarily with women?
Tend to gravitate, or women tend to gravitate towards me, but I work with anyone.
Well, it's ironic that we're having this conversation because my mom moved in, and there's no slam against my mom. She's like, "You look like you've lost weight," and I'm like, "Oh my God!" And it was a trigger for me because I was skinny all my life. I couldn't put on weight if I tried to, which is some people will hate that fact, but it was a sore spot for me. I was being teased. I was called scrawny or skinny or whatever. And I kind of shined it on, but when she said that, I just watched my whole being and I stepped on the scale. I don't weigh myself that much. I'm like, Mom, I'm weighing from here to here. Usually my weight fluctuates. And I went and did it, and it's right where it needs to be. But the psychological aspect of my mother saying that, it brought me right back to all those things where she used to defend me, yet here she's trying to be kind and say, "You look like you lost weight." I'm like, "Oh my God, shush." Anyway, let's walk through some of the tangible stuff because you have expertise in this area. What's your degree in psychology too?
Well, I have a degree in uh, my master's degree was specifically in the field of exercise science, but I did the psychology route.
Okay.
And my thesis was on behavior change and all the different behavior change models.
And I want to focus on that because it ties in with a lot of the other guests that I've had on the show and some of the personal growth stuff that you and I talked about off the cuff at this Chamber of Commerce event, as well as other things. And it's this identity and attachment to wanting to belong is kind of where I'm landing right now. And I know you
Mhm.
can probably speak to that. So it's the community that you talked about, but it's fitting in and finding that happy place that isn't trying to fill a hole, which I refer to as a hole. You may call it something different, but it's an escape from, or it's adding pleasure to because it makes me feel good and all the neuroscience that goes along with that, in terms of feel good hormones, et cetera. But how do you navigate with a new client or even existing clients? Give us a taste of what that would look like off the cuff here, just so people can kind of understand what they're facing and what you have, experienced for 25 years working with patients.
Um, First, I want to go back to what you said about the hole. I call it the filling the hole of not enough.
Okay.
So I love that we can connect on that. And to walk you through my general process, um, I've come to, you know stepping back to what you mentioned, that I work with women who have menopause. I also am um, specializing in supporting people who are struggling with ADHD.
Hmm.
And a lot of women um, end up with menopause onset ADHD. They call it the brain fog, but it actually is starting to reveal itself as the ADHD, as well as supporting women who have children with ADHD and don't know how to navigate that. But um, a typical uh, program with me starts with a discovery call to sort of see where people are at, and I move through a very comprehensive assessment of clinical and behavioral uh, specific questions and scenarios to sort of
Okay.
see where people have been. And of course, I want to know what their needs are and what their goals are and where they want to see themselves. But quite often, people come in with an idea of what they need, and it ends up going in a different direction. And
Not
um,
surprising, right? It's like
right,
you
right, right,
think
right.
you know what you need, but it's like, well, maybe not, right?
And in fact, that's one of the questions. I think it's the last question on my assessment is tell me what you think you need to do,
Mm.
and then tell me what you want to do. And the purpose of this question is to identify one's willingness and readiness to make a change. Because without that, it's very difficult to move forward.
I'm going to
And
ask you to repeat that before you go further because I have
mhm,
the same thing in my own coaching practice and my own recovery journey. Without the willingness, there's nothing.
yes.
You don't have a whole lot to work with. So, caveat to those that are listening out there, when you pick up the phone at the end of the show and you want to reach out to Mel or me on a different personal growth level, please come willing. You don't have to know exactly what you want or even what you think you might need, but at least be willing to be open to some suggestions, right? Because that's where the healing happens. If you're not willing to change or grow or learn,
Yeah.
the hole stays open and the door stays closed.
And there is a difference between knowing. I think this is one of the biggest challenges that we as coaches are up against is people have a lot of knowledge and they have some sense of knowing what they need to do, but do they really want to do the work? And that
Sorry, I'm
creates
laughing. I didn't. The one it's going to precede this episode, but I have a world famous podcaster by the name of Kevin Miller who did. We had a conversation when I wrote a book a while ago, and he's all people. They just don't have the drive. He says, I think what people need is they need to be willing to want to be willing. And I'm like, kind of right.
I like that.
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
So back to sort of my process is we create from that point, we create a roadmap and I look at the clinical, the behavioral, and the educational needs of the client. And as far as clinical is concerned, that's specifically like, do they have any co-occurring conditions, medications, what supplements are they currently taking, any kind of medical history that would give me any insight into their personal history. And then behavioral, we look at perhaps what kind of struggles that they've been on the merry-go-round with, um, or what they've been able to personally identify in themselves as their pain point or their
Mhm.
reason for to coming in to see me. And then where are the knowledge or education gaps? And we create a roadmap from there. And at that point, they're able to choose if they feel like they're ready for a 1, 2, or 3 month appointment. I curate anything that anybody wants. If whatever people are willing to do, I'm there. I will curate a half an hour every other week or a half an hour a week, but the magic happens on a solid 3 month program.
Okay.
And that's where that's like the willingness and the commitment to that um, plays a huge role. And there are obviously people that aren't quite ready for a 3 month commitment, but they'll get their toes wet with a one, okay, I'll give you a month. And what I've found is most often those clients, we get through that month and it's just like we've scratched the surface. And then we're in a more a further stage of readiness and willingness to keep moving.
Well, and it's interesting to hear you say that too, because having gone through therapy myself years and years ago and been in recovery for a long ass time, I understand that peeling back of the onion layers and that willingness may not be there in the beginning, but as you trust and as trust is built and you keep peeling back those layers, I applaud you for being willing to meet people where they're at because it's not a sales pitch. If you really want the help, and not everybody's really ready to jump into a 3 or 6 month or a year-long commitment out of the gate. So, um, where you see the most success and actually, what's your preferred client? I'll go ahead and finish your process, but then go into kind of what your ideal client profile is so that people are listening who may go, oh, that's me, can reach out to you, you know?
Well, in terms of the process, like I mentioned, it's very individually curated for the person's needs. And along the journey, we decide like as I mentioned, they might come in with X goal, but we end up with Y and Z as actual goals. But I'd like to actually talk a little bit about the branding behind um, my my name, my brand, the meaning behind my brand. Thank you, because it ties into the process. And I've had quite a few people ask me what um, motivate with Mel is all about, and as you can see, it's motivate, master, and maintain. And motivation is finding the willingness to walk through the door to figure out what it is you need. The
Hmm.
mastering is mastering the skills, mastering the new behaviors, practicing. It's the practice of everything that you want to see as an outcome. And then maintenance is the piece that we tend to give such little emphasis or credit to, because we've been told you can change a habit in 21 days, but the magic happens for what happens 6, 8, 10, 12 months after you've achieved that solid behavior change. And it's in that moment, or in that period of time, that we have that tendency to relapse or to backslide or to dabble in the old patterns that we had created. So I just wanted to sort of sum that up with my process is based on that exactly.
I'm glad to hear you mention that too, because it's a great name, Motivate with Mel, but it's not just all about motivation. There's three tiers to it, and it's three important pillars of a three-legged stool for personal transformation as it relates to attitude and mindset around food issues. And I have to beg the question just because my wife shared on this episode or on a recent episode, she's in a 12-step program. For those that are out there that may come up, um, how do you balance or how do you complement work that people are doing in 12-step programs? I'm very familiar with it, but I'm asking the question because it's very clear that there are opportunities, and myself in particular, going through drug and alcohol rehab and
Mhm.
coming up on, just celebrated 39 years of recovery. There came a time where I had to deal with deeper emotional, deep-seated issues, and ergo, I had to go spend time with a marriage and family counselor who knew and understood the inner underlying causes and conditions of addiction. And a
Mhm.
lot of that's behavioral therapy. So just address it in your own words for a sec, because I know that I'm assuming it comes up. I would imagine it would.
So I think your question is, how does my work complement someone who is also in the 12-step program or therapy?
Yes.
Okay. I think that it's one of the luxuries and pleasures that I think I've had in this journey is having had worked integratively with so many physicians and therapists and psychiatrists for the years. And I didn't mention, but I was with Kaiser Permanente for almost 20 years before I made this transition. And I've gleaned an incredible amount of experience in witnessing that integrative process, working with people with addiction and
Mhm.
with eating disorders. And so I feel like I've had just an amazing amount of experience in how to complement the opportunity to work as a team with other providers, and I welcome and encourage that. I think the more support that you have from different angles, the better the foundation and the better the wraparound support for getting to where you want to be, but also maintaining. And so I feel like my work is very complementary, especially because I so understand the behavior change process.
Hmm.
I don't, stay in my lane. I don't go out of scope, but there is a lot of crossover with the work that I do with therapy in the sense that as part of my process, I do what's called a food biography, and I have people go back to their earliest memory of food. Where were you? How old were you? Who was at the table? Whether it was a positive experience or a negative experience, it's interesting because it's as people go through the lineage of their lives, they start to realize where something happened around food that either supported a traumatic experience or a different set of circumstances that may have never been addressed.
Hmm.
And that gives me the opportunity to team up with a therapist and say,
Sure.
look, this is a stuck point that I see. Maybe you can do some deeper management of that. Does that answer your question?
It does, and I purposely and intentionally asked the question in a way of compliment rather than replace. I'm sure there's some people out there that are looking for a quick fix, easy solutions, but that's kind of what you're addressing from what I hear you talking about
Mhm.
is, this diet, the diet culture, the yo-yo diets, changing, my friend always called it changing seats in the Titanic. You get rid of one addiction or one bad habit or series of bad habits and mental obstacles, if you will, and you replace it with something else. And until we look, from my own experience, until we learn to look at that, look in the mirror, but look at what is that hole and understand and identify that hole in our soul or whatever it happens to be, it's not until we actually become willing and what I say bold and brave enough to look at that realistically and without fear that healing can occur. And until we kind of get there, but there's a lot of steps sometimes to get there. So, in terms of a replacement for, there may be some people that don't want to, that, other programs out there aren't for them, but there, I guess what I'm trying to find out from you is it is complementary and there is no one solution for anybody out there, right?
No, and I think that what I can say about my program is that I think it's a wonderful place to start for someone who is curious about um, whether or not they might need a
Mm,
more therapeutic environment. It's a safe, more surface level peek into what's going on. And I think it's so important because the we've become a society that judges everything by how many calories you take in or how much exercise you got or how many steps you took, and we're it sounds cliche-ish, but we're so much more than numbers.
yes.
And this is I want to help quiet that noise. And when you quiet that noise, it helps to bring whatever else is under all that to the surface. And people are somewhat surprised, I think, sometimes that they didn't know how easily they had access to what was really going on.
And let's riff on that a little bit, and then we're going to segue into your offer because it is coming up to the holidays, and there's a lot of emotions and a lot of stuff going on around the holidays that kind of
Mhm.
are triggers for many, many people in various arenas. But let's talk about the other side of working with you and some of the success stories and what, from your perspective, quieting the noise looks like, either from your own experience and or through your work with clients.
Quieting the noise is it's sort of everything that goes into that hole of not enough.
Hmm.
Like we talked about earlier. I feel like there's a lot of chatter going on for people. Let's talk about someone who's going through the menopause transition. The amount of information out there right now, and it just blew up, is incredible. And I think that women are experiencing um, it's the aging process. There's nothing we can really do about it, and I'm not minimizing it. It's I'm going through it. It really sucks. But trying to, instead of fix everything, trying to embrace the fact that we are these amazing humans who have either like had a given birth to kids and raised them, and or had a long-term professional career, and you're in this like place of not knowing what's next for you. um, that coupled with all these physical symptoms and your body changing and not having control over that puts us in a very vulnerable place.
Yeah.
And my goal with this population is to get your eating on track, not from a place of how many calories you're eating, or we're talking just about sustainability and to
Mhm.
embrace the person that you are and who or how you want to show up for the rest of your life. It is like this sort of midway point. Like, where have you been? Where are you right now? And where do you want to go? And and at the same time, try not to be on that bandwagon of trying the next best thing every time you can. How do we slow down that need and look at what we have in front of us and what we can do with that?
No, and I'm going to repeat what you just said because it's one of those little mantras. It's so simple, but it's so easy to overlook because of the information overload. Whether it's menopause, I don't even know if andropause is a thing. I haven't studied it. It's like I've been moody all my life, so it's kind
Mhm.
of it would, you know, where have we been? Where are we now? And where do we want to go? And those are three fundamental questions that we all know how to ask, but do we really ask them? Do we take the time to go, okay, let's look at this a little deeper. Where have we been? What has been some of the stuff that's going on? Where are we at right now? What's feeling comfortable, what's not? And realistically, the gap that you talked about is how do we go from where we are now and where we've been to make that next leap into where we want to be. And that's where therapy and coaching and all the
Mhm.
stuff that you do and I do is really, really critical to help people feel comfortable about not going from where they're at now to where they think they want to be alone.
Right.
Because underneath all this, I know firsthand most of these disorders or whatever you want to call them, whether it's food, alcohol, drugs, sex, there's a laundry list of them.
Mhm.
90% of them come back to one word, and that one word is loneliness.
Yep.
So let's put a bow on this because just share maybe one generic anonymous success story, and then I'm going to have you talk about your holiday special. I have it here, but I want you to talk about it.
Well, I wanted to say one quick thing
Sure.
uh, about the loneliness piece. That is something that is so important to me. The reason that I've gone into this work at this period of time is that I feel like we are post COVID social isolation. The loneliness is worse than ever. We're constantly looking at the next best thing. And I want to provide human connection in this journey, not just a program that you log into every day or whatever. It's to me, it is all about human connection. And so the let's see, a success story. Wow. I didn't think of one in particular. Uh,
You don't have, I put you on the spot, Mel.
that's okay.
So just something that resonated
Um,
with you that you feel proud about, that if you were talking to somebody outside of a new potential client, you go, I just did this work with this person and it lit me up because I'm
well,
saying this because that's a big part of the reward for us. It's not the financial rewards always, it's the rewards of helping have a hand in changing people's lives, for me anyway.
thank you for clarifying because I do have um, two separate personal experience or professional experiences with clients lately that are sort of came up as a theme. When you have two sort of at the same time, you're like, wow, this is something to really look into. And both of these people had some really great foundational uh, things in place for their nutrition and their other lifestyle behaviors. You know, we go through sleep, we go through exercise, we go through all the stress management stuff. And I just kept thinking that there's something else that I didn't like. I couldn't put a finger on, and I actually could put a finger on it, but it was grief.
Mm,
And I think that when we, especially at this stage in our lives, we're losing parents. We have some people have lost children. Some people are losing children because their children are transitioning and they don't lose their children, but they lose the the idea of what was to
sure.
what's new or what's different or new. And so I've really been pushing people to address grief and also forgiveness. And I
Crap.
think
Sorry.
those, both of those areas are things that people don't often identify with lifestyle behaviors and are so important, and they sometimes tend to create protection around us in the form of extra weight or in the form of extra, addictive tendencies. So I just wanted to put that out there because I feel like I'm embarking on some new territory that I feel really is valuable and I really um, am excited about.
I'm stoked to hear you say this because it's what I've lived and breathed for so many years, and I find my own mechanisms around grief. But the forgiveness aspect, my first book was my recovery journey memoir, and it was all about forgiveness. And at the
Mhm.
time, it's like that is such a loaded word that has religious undertones, but it's not. If you
Nope.
stop and really look at what that one word means, it's, in all honesty, just a side note, I think it's the cure for a lot of our ails as a culture. And when we learn to forgive and not necessarily forget, it doesn't mean we have to agree, but when we truly learn to forgive, first and foremost, ourselves, then and only then can we begin the healing journey. So, how is this manifest? You had two stories that just came up. Are there particular things that you want to share specifically, or just in general from a grief and a forgiveness with these couple clients?
I think I just will keep it general.
Sure.
What I will say that the work that we've done has opened them up to more self-awareness and
Mhm.
self-love, and that is like, I don't know if I know that looked at my website, but what I wanted to convey from someone going to my website is that the work that I do is meant to help you reconnect with who you are. And whether that's by, you know, feeding your body good food instead of punishing it or um, feeding it with things that don't serve your health,
Mhm.
or whether it's learning how to slow down and say no. um, that's what's most important to me is the reconnection with yourself, your self relationship, and as cliche as it sounds, self love.
No, and this is important. I knew we'd get here. We always do whenever I have guests. Sometimes you kind of have to go through our own interview process to get to the stuff that really matters. And now that we're here, I want people to have an opportunity to connect with you and to build your business. This is not a self-promotional show, but the guests that I have, folks who have something that I believe is of value, I wouldn't have them on the show first and foremost. Secondly, this is about helping people. Anything that I do on this show is about helping people. And Melanie's got some opportunities here for you to connect with her that, quite frankly, are very affordable for anybody at any level. So you want to talk about those, your holiday season preparation special?
Sure. I am I'm of the mindset of trying to sort of um, you know be in constant preparation for what might be. And
Mhm.
this isn't from a place of worry or fear. This is just like, I don't want to wake up on January 1st and feel like, oh God, I got to start over again this year. I want other people to have that. Like, I've just heard so many people talking about, oh, the holiday season is coming. So I put together what I'm calling a pre holiday strategy package. And it's basically a 1 month program that includes my comprehensive assessment. So you end up like with what everybody else signs up for. The comprehensive assessment with 3 follow-up sessions. And it's for me, it's like the perfect opportunity to look at, where might your struggles be? What do you know about yourself in the holidays? And how would you like to approach the holidays differently this year? Just to draw awareness and to put some behavioral strategies in place to really move through the holidays without the I hate to use I use the word chaos, but there's chaos
There's
in
chaos, no matter how much we want to avoid it. All you got to
yeah,
do is,
yeah,
not shop
for
online and go wait in line at one store or forget something when you're having guests over for one of the holiday dinners, and that's chaos.
yeah, absolutely. So, I feel like it's like basically 4 weeks of support, with the outcome would be a strategy and a plan for moving through the holidays, and, I'm doing that for $3.99.
Yeah, and your little detail here, the reason I say it's a great value is three private 50-minute sessions plus the assessment for under $400. Private one-on-one, not group sessions. These are
Yes.
private and confidential. So
Mhm.
let's give people an opportunity to find your cool site, which you spent some time, money, and energy on because it's one of the better sites that I've seen, and direct them to that and how they can reach out to you directly if you want to share your email.
Sure. I, have a website. It's motivatewithmel.com. And my email is Melanie at motivatewithmel.com. I start out with a complimentary 30-minute discovery call. I call it my momentum builder. And you can book yourself directly from the website. And I have openings and would love to connect.
That's awesome. Do you want to share that you just opened up a new space down here in downtown Petaluma in the old mill?
Yes, I'm so, so excited and so grateful to have the opportunity to be right in the heart of Petaluma. I've been in Petaluma for 21 years now, and a, really great, collaboration between myself and a massage therapist that's also in the chamber, um, happened, and it's, 6 Petaluma Boulevard North, Suite B10 in the Great Petaluma Mill, upstairs from the, Wild Goat, right across from the Chamber of Commerce.
It's great. It's a great spot. And anybody who's listening to this who hasn't been to Petaluma lately, it's a happen, hippin' and hoppin' town and jump on the smart train and come on up if you're up north or down south. And even from San Francisco, hop on a ferry and then pick up the smart train from Larkspur and come up. That's a free plug for smart, but you know what? It is what it is.
Okay, I love the smart train, and I also do um,
That's
virtual
great.
work as well, so it doesn't have to be, in person.
Well, Melanie, this has been a delight. And without being rehearsed and doing it off the cuff, I think that we covered some topics here. Let's leave last words for you, and then I'll close up the show. For that one person out there, what would you want to say to somebody who's kind of on the fence if you saw them just through the airwaves, through this podcast, through the video on YouTube? What would you say to somebody who's struggling and that you can offer help to them?
I think I would say that, if you're on the fence, the most valuable investment that you can make, regardless of whatever else is going on, is in yourself.
Yeah.
And if you are not ready for this level of support, just feel into yourself and find what the next best thing is for you. And hopefully that will lead you to more.
I love it. And thanks for your heart. Thanks for your honesty. And folks, once again, this has been Dare to Be Great, Dare to Be You. I'm your host, Sean Langwell. Keep coming back. This podcast is starting to take off. I don't make any money on it. This is my gift and my way of connecting with people I don't know and sharing it publicly so that you might find some value on this show. And that's why I do it. If it blows up, I'm not going to lie. I will start selling advertising because that's what I do for my day job. But right now, this is a gift. Share it, listen to it, like it, love it. And please go visit Mel at motivatewithmel.com, right?
Yep.
Thank you, folks. Again, my name is Sean Langwell. This has been Dare to Be Great, Dare to Be You. And I've been visiting with Melanie Larson. Thank
Mhm.
you. See you
Thank
next.
you.